Iowa elites who preyed on children.
During the 2016 presidential election, there was a lot of stuff going on. And it was on both Trump's side and um, Hillary Clinton's side. And what we're finding out, this is one of the guys that was covering it. And somehow I want to say, he got threatened enough that he didn't pursue it. Um, 10 years ago, Pizzagate was by far the number one trending topic on Twitter. But the claim of pedophile elites who preyed on children was so insane that Pizzagate was shrugged off as a wild fever dream of a conspiracy theory. But then, just days ago, the largest dump of Epstein files revealed what some of us have been telling you for a decade, that Pizzagate is real. Not that there is a pizza parlor at the center of the child trafficking ring, but child trafficking rings run by some of the most powerful people in the world do exist. Tonight, I want to remind you of what I told you then and compare that to what we have learned now. So, this guy, Ben Swan, I used to watch some of his video drops, and they were pretty compelling. So, let's get to the beginning of this video.
But what does that even mean? Epstein is Pizzagate. Let that sink in for a minute. Jeffrey Epstein is Pizzagate. 10 years ago, Pizzagate was by far the number one trending topic on Twitter. But the claim of pedophile elites who preyed on children was so insane that Pizzagate was shrugged off as a wild fever dream of a conspiracy theory. I was the first mainstream reporter to dare give the facts surrounding Pizzagate. My corporate career was destroyed over it, so what? My professional reputation was obliterated, that wasn't fun. And I wasn't the only one. Anyone who dared to suggest that this might be true was blacklisted, shadow banned, or thrown off of social media. But then, just days ago...
Yeah, and that is what happened to Ben Swan. He just stopped doing coverage. So I don't know exactly why his particular coverage, and it did seem like it was the Pizzagate episode that got him off of Twitter. If you remember correctly, this was the height of the allegations of Russian interference in the election, which truthfully probably happened. I mean, there were certainly indications that there were hacker attempts on several government buildings and political buildings, right? So I had already been covering the fact that CrowdStrike was tasked with examining all of the DNC servers, um, and they failed to mention in their first report of Cozy Bear and some other sort of bear, um, they failed to mention that 90% of the DNC's data was actually stored in the cloud. So, examining hard drives and servers on site would have little to nothing to do with discovering how it got hacked, because it would have been a hack in the cloud. The only thing that they would have potentially kept on site would be a server that's like an operational type of server, because obviously all of their computers and their network would have to go to these cloud services. And they had redundant accounts with Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure at the time. So I was deep diving on this stuff as it was all coming out, as it was all revealed. And the Pizzagate allegations came out of speculation from the WikiLeaks dropped, which Julian Assange was not putting in context. He was basically just had received the hacked documents and made them available to the public on his website. The problem with that is that if he did no actual reporting and, placing context on it, then he left a lot of very scared and potentially uneducated people to arrive to their own conclusions. And that's why basically somebody stormed into Cosmic Pizza thinking that they had a basement where they were keeping children hostage. And he entered with a weapon. I don't remember if he actually fired and hurt anybody, but they don't even have a basement. There was no evidence that they were actually involved. So it sounds like it was a code word. And there were code words all over the Epstein files as well. Now, Anonymous is supposed to be doing a drop as well today, but I wanted to jump back to Ben Swan because I know he was covering this stuff.
Largest dump of Epstein files revealed what some of us have been telling you for a decade, that Pizzagate is real. Not that there is a pizza parlor at the center of a child trafficking ring, but that child trafficking rings run by some of the most powerful people in the world do exist. Tonight, I want to remind you of what I told you then and compare that to what we have now learned.
Pizzagate. It became a major story weeks ago when an armed man decided to investigate a D.C. area pizza place for himself. This man right here, he carried a rifle into a pizza parlor and then fired it at the floor. Media is telling you the entire story is a hoax or fake news. But what does that even mean? I spent the last month investigating. So what exactly is Pizzagate?
Well, the story that came to be known as Pizzagate did not.
And by the way, the whole term fake news came from an organization. It's not Interpol. I'm trying to remember because I wrote a whole article about this, and we no longer have the website up. But basically, there was somebody on this council. It was like an international council that seemed like it had a lot of influence in propaganda and international trade. And the person who was talking the most about fake news and coined the term was from Eastern Europe, close to Russia. I can't remember if it was Ukraine or if it was Romania or something. I think it might have been Ukraine, though. If I remember these details or if I can find my old files, I'll try and dig this up. But she also had connections to CrowdStrike. And I think CrowdStrike actually had a member of their leadership team on this particular organization's board of directors as well. So there was all kinds of stuff going on.
Not begin with a rumor, nor was it created by Macedonian sheep farmers, as CNN actually once claimed. It began with WikiLeaks, authentic, verified emails taken from the phone of the chairman of Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign, John Podesta. Those emails were real. In all these years, by the way, no one has actually disputed that. Inside those emails were communications that struck a lot of people, not just online commentators, but researchers and former law enforcement, as unusual to say the least. References to pizza, and to pizza handkerchiefs, and to maps, to private gatherings involving powerful people, some very bizarre stuff. In fact, the first people to draw attention to those emails were a group of self-proclaimed pedophiles on 4chan and 8chan who claimed that Podesta was using the same terminology that they use to speak in coded language. And in researching those emails, I found a 2010 entry into Urban Dictionary. It's still there, by the way. It confirms that cheese pizza is a commonly coded term for child pornography, CP. I want you to see these images here. These are the images. Notice this one on the end, the triangle. That image signifies something called boy love. The pizza place next door to Comet Ping Pong Pizza, Besta Pizza, well, this was their logo until only a few weeks ago. Clearly, you can see that the Besta logo actually contains the same image, I'm going to show you again, as that boy lover image. Interestingly, after Pizzagate investigators pointed this out, Besta Pizza changed their logo, and there it is now. They removed the triangle. Yeah, 10 years ago, I was called a dangerous conspiracy theorist and a madman for claiming that pedophiles and possibly even pedophile elites might use coded language, even though it was online pedophiles who said that's exactly what they do. Which brings us back to this new Epstein release, because in it, the word pizza is mentioned 911 times. That's right, 911 times adults are emailing back and forth about slices of pizza and about pizza parties. And the word pizza is often paired with grape soda in bizarre contexts within emails addressed to Epstein by individuals whose names had.
And that probably goes back to Michael Jackson when he was accused of giving one of his child visitors grape soda that was actually wine in a grape soda can.
Been mostly redacted. So here's one. Quote, "This is better than a Chinese cookie. Let's go for pizza and grape soda again. No one else can understand." Or this one. "Mr. Epstein would like to see the menu from the pizza place. Could someone send it, please?" Or this one from 2014. "Sit down, because I know you won't believe this. Are you sitting? Jeffrey says he wants to go out to a pizza place with you. He did not mention a particular pizza place, but he knows you are in the know on this," with a little winking emoji. All of the emails that I just shared with you were from 2014, right about the same time period of the John Podesta emails that WikiLeaks published and started the entire Pizzagate saga.
Now let's talk about the Podesta brothers, because remember, it was
Yeah, okay, so we're going to get into the Podesta stuff. Now, those, it wasn't 2014 that the drop happened. The hack happened in early 2016. I think the emails actually end in early 2016, and Julian Assange released it as the October surprise, but it wasn't all released at once. It was released every single day from October surprise through election day. So you could never escape the fact that it was going to be covered in the news constantly.
John Podesta's email that was hacked. In those leaked Podesta emails, John Podesta talks about his close relationship with Dennis Hastert, the former Speaker of the House, who was recently sentenced to 15 months in prison for abusing boys years ago.
Yeah, well, speaking of the Podesta brothers, again, there was no direct evidence of them being involved in child sex trafficking from those emails. But as we pointed out at the time, there was a lot of bizarre communication, including an email from John Podesta to his brother Tony. The subject line, "Last night was fun," and the first line reads, "Still in torture chamber." That email got really no attention 10 years ago, but today, a 2009 email from Jeffrey Epstein is getting a lot of attention, as it asks, "Where are you? You okay? I love the torture video."
To the fallout from the latest release of the Jeffrey Epstein documents, they include communications between the rich and powerful, from the co-owner of an NFL team to billionaires like Elon Musk.
CNN teams are carefully sifting through the largest, and what the Justice Department says is the last, batch of Jeffrey Epstein files.
Friday's release of millions of pages related to Jeffrey Epstein provided a closer look at his connection to world elites from Hollywood to Washington, Wall Street to Buckingham Palace and beyond.
Yeah, well, All those so-called news anchors and their newsrooms for a decade blacklisted this topic. They conditioned you to live in ignorance. They called it a conspiracy. They called me and so many others dangerous for even looking.
For all that is here, there has not been one single public investigation of any of this, not from local police, not from the...
You know, you have to be careful when people are using code words or terminology from a specific field or something like that, because I think it was Assange that dumped some emails about scientific discussions about global warming, and they were using a scientific expression trick, and he was able to get people to speculate on whether or not the scientists were actually trying to um, fool people around the world into believing in something that didn't exist, when in fact that's not the case. We have lots of scientific evidence that global warming is happening, but that's why you have so many people who just are like, I don't know, I don't believe it, blah blah blah, right? I found one of the more interesting things about the Podesta files, this weird sort of dinner parties that he would go to that were somehow performance art and very macabre. I can't remember if he talks about it.
FBI, no one. And that has to be the big question. Not for Podesta or for pizza parlor owners, but for law enforcement. Based on what may be or may not be here, the big question is, why hasn't any investigation taken place?
Well, 10 years later, no investigation ever took place. It's a failure of a complicit government and also of a corporate media that didn't just ignore this evil. They helped to cover it up and keep it operating in the shadows. See, by refusing to engage honestly in 2016, by choosing mockery over investigation, by silencing questions instead of asking them, they created the very environment where this evil could thrive. See, they didn't kill bad information as they pretended. They guaranteed it would survive. See, I wasn't censored the way that I was because my reporting was false. I was censored because it was dangerous. Dangerous to narratives, dangerous to reputations, dangerous to a media culture that had grown comfortable acting as a gatekeeper rather than a watchdog. See, the unspoken rule was simple. Some questions are not allowed. Not because they're wrong, no, but because they lead to the truth. And the truth? Pizzagate. At least in the form of a cabal of elites and powerful people who delight in the physical and sexual abuse of children, is real. Remember how we started. Epstein is Pizzagate. But the other reality it's time to accept, Pizzagate is much more and much bigger than just Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, that's interesting that it came full circle like that, because yeah, he was pretty much run off the internet. And considering that Elon Musk owns X, which is where this video is right now, it's pretty amazing that it hasn't been taken down yet. I'm going to be real with you. So let's hold up. I gotta. Sally's on my legs. All right. Let's read what he had to say about it. 10 years ago, did I already do this? I might have already done this. I think I did this. Okay. So anyway, this is what he said. But I will also, in the comments of my caption of this video, I'm going to give you a link to another video that I have not gone through and done my commentary on. And it is more along this lines of using code words. And it has to do with Wayfair having products that were severely overpriced and named after missing children. So take a look for that video as well if you're interested in following this story. And please like and subscribe to my channel. I don't know what to say. I did a lot of research on this during the 2016 election. And then I decided to just get involved and seek changes in our politics to have a better future for our families and our children. And here we are. Trump's in office. And he was like Epstein's bestie.